and welcome to another episode of This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. I would like to start this video by saying that I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, and I'm not a medical professional in any way. Just a regular person trying to navigate through life and trying to navigate what's going on up in here. So, I wanted to get back on the topic of guilt, or more specifically, the impact that guilt had on me as a young person, as a young man growing up. Um, yeah, guilt was used quite a bit, quite a bit. I think they kind of just like tried to, instead of using guilt to scare me straight. And, you know, like if I got in trouble, it was my fault. If something bad happened, it was my fault. Everything was my fault. Even if it wasn't. Like I mentioned before, when all I did was change the speakers in my car. I just got this car. It was an old hoopty 77 Delta 88, and I put some speakers in it, and then suddenly the car wouldn't start. It turns out the battery just died. It happens. It happens. But he got so mad at me. He blamed me for the battery dying. He blamed me because I tinkered with the car. He blamed me. It was all my fault. All of it. And even after we find out the battery's dead, there was never, oh, sorry. Sorry, I was wrong. No, no, nothing. He would just yell and yell and yell. And then the next day, pretend like it didn't even happen. I adopted my dog Shammy. And, going back to the money issue, to get the money to pay to get her out of the pound, I had to beg my mom for my own money. I had to beg for it. So then I go and I adopt this dog and bring her home. And she's adjusting pretty well, but I have to go to work. So I go to work and I take a break and decide I'm going to call and see how the dog's doing. So I call, how's Shammy doing? And immediately she's like, "You never call me. How come you don't call to see how I'm doing? You never call me." And I'm like, okay, but right now I'm just calling to see how the dog is doing. Oh, but you never call me. And she like wouldn't stop. So, just made me feel guilty because I don't call her to see how she's doing. Years later, even when I was married and had moved out and had kids and my own house and all that, she would call me out of the blue just to make me feel guilty for not calling her. Like she would call me and then, "How come you don't call me? You never call me. How come you don't call me?" And I'm like, "Okay, well, we're talking now. Let's visit. Let's talk right now." "Yeah, but you don't ever call me." And that was like the extent of a lot of the conversations we had, was just the fact that I wasn't there enough for her, for them. And like I mentioned before, they tried to guilt me straight, like make me feel guilty for going to parties or going out or hanging out with people. And they would make up stories, make up stuff, just make up stuff. If you go to a party, the cops are going to come in and you're going to get arrested. They're going to come in the house and they're going to arrest you all. Which they can't do that. But they would just make up stories. Sometimes my mom would just like make up something just off the top of her head and claim that she saw it on the news. We lived out where they still live now. The houses are so spread out. There's no sidewalks. Across the street is nothing but cornfields. So it's just spread out. People don't really walk out there. It's not like a neighborhood. But they were always paranoid of going out on the street. Like, I want to ride my bike on the street, and no, you're going to get hit. You're going to get hit. If they hit you, it's your fault because you're on the road. Well, then where am I supposed to? They wanted me to just do loops in the driveway. But they made me feel like if I got hit by a car, then it was my fault because I was out on the street. And they would just make up stuff. Oh, I saw in the news that this boy riding his bike got hit by a car. Oh, sure he did. I could always tell. I could always tell when they were lying to me. I could tell, but yet I couldn't say anything. I couldn't talk back. I had to just kind of let them say what they were going to say and just shrug and move on, which is I did quite a bit. Just kind of, you get to a point where you're like, okay, whatever you say, all right. I don't have to truly believe it, but I just would humor them just to make them stop. Is too much. It just made me feel guilty for not knowing right from wrong without teaching me right from wrong. If I was just getting by, everybody was just quiet and nobody cared. But once I got in trouble, then I would totally get the lecture, sit there for an hour and listen to my old man tell me how stupid I was. And that's what happened a lot. But I'm going to take a quick break, and I will be right back with a little more of This is Rico, trying to heal my inner child. Hello, and welcome back to This is Rico, trying to heal my inner child. Getting back to the topic of guilt, or more precisely, the impact that guilt had on a very young Rico. You know, at this point, I started feeling guilty about everything, even if it was not even involving me. I would just feel the guilt. And sometimes there were times where I started changing my own oil. I was, getting to be a little older, so I want to learn how to do this stuff myself with the car. But my dad had all the tools because he had everything he needed to do like body work inside his garage. He had a big giant compressor. He had all kinds of tools. He had all kinds of jack stands and everything. So I take the car. I'm in the driveway, and immediately when I get the jack and I start jacking the car up, he comes outside and acts like he's going to supervise. But instead of supervising, he just kind of takes over. Just kind of takes over and does it. And treats me like I'm just his helper. I'm his helper now. I'm just his little bitch helper. Go get me the wrench. Go get me the oil catcher. And he would just do it for me. And then later kind of make me feel guilty that he had to change my oil. I'm like, I didn't ask him to do that. But he didn't trust me. He didn't think I could do it myself. He kind of felt like he had to step in and do it for me because, he just assumes that I don't know. He assumes I don't know, and then he just makes me feel guilty for not knowing. But he wouldn't let me do it because he didn't trust me. And he thought I was dumb, and like I said before, I start to believe it all because all I hear is, well, you're dumb. It's because you're dumb. And they didn't use those words. They didn't say you're dumb, but in so many words they did. in so many words. And at that time, when I was started moving furniture, work was just more of the same thing. More of people just, if you go and you do your job and you're okay, then nobody cares. But if you mess one thing up, one little thing, anything, we're gonna make you feel dumb and we're gonna make you feel guilty, like everything's your fault. Oh, those guys, they had like tempers and they would just get irritated for no reason. No reason at all. We started a term called the spit fit, meaning when you're talking so loud that you're kind of spitting while you're having a fit. The spit fit. If you do it outside in the sunlight, you're going to see a rainbow. That was our joke. But that was like a normal thing. Getting yelled at. Getting yelled at. This is your fault. This is your fault. You know, under a microscope. And all I was doing was trying my best. Trying my best. But sometimes accidents happen. Sometimes damage happens. Sometimes. It wasn't a lot. It didn't happen all the time. Now, if it was happening every job, I can understand there being a problem, but it wasn't. But when that one time happened, it was the end of the world. And that happened with my parents too. They just, if I messed up one thing or if I forgot one thing, it was the end of the world. But they never paid attention to all the stuff that I did do, which is another common reoccurring theme of my life. I was just treated like I was dumb. And again, I know I've said this already, but when everyone around you tells you that you're dumb, you start to believe it. You know, and I believed I couldn't find a better job because I'm not smart enough to do anything else except carry heavy stuff and you know, receive abuse from these guys. I stayed there for like 4 years. I don't know why. I do know why. Because I thought I wasn't good enough to do anything else. Once in a while, I would think about doing something else, getting a different job, and that doubt would come back and say, "No, you can't. You can't do anything else. You're only good enough for lifting heavy stuff. That's it." And I believed it. I totally believed it. I let the doubt tell me what I could and couldn't do. So I stayed and I just endured abuse. Worked with these two goons that were just, oh my gosh, they used the oh, we have seniority. You're the new guy. We have seniority. So I had two guys, two big corn-fed hillers treating me like I'm stupid. Treating me like I'm the little bitch. Treating me, and so, you know, I guess I thought this was normal because everybody else treated me like a little bitch, so I might as well just go along, but I'd get all irritated and get all quiet because what the hell? We're supposed to be working together as a team. All you guys want to do is like pick me apart for some reason. And they would do it in front of the customers. They would do it in front of everybody. You know, they had these little jokes, but like it was always at my expense. You know, I can't handle public humiliation. You know, I have to tell people, if you have a problem with me, talk to me in person, private. Don't talk to me in front of everyone and make me an example, because that's too much. I'm going to take a real quick break and I will be back with a little more. This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. Welcome back to This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. And back to the issue of guilt. How much guilt I carried that I didn't even need to. It was unnecessary. Not at all. People that tried to make me look bad to make themselves look good. It was happening again. It was happening again. And it happens throughout my entire life. Like, seriously, all the way up until now. And I'm still, at the time, I'm still learning to deal with conflict. I'm still learning who I am. And after a while, I learned to hold my own a little. You know, it's hard when you have two guys, 2-on-1, and that's always seemed to be how it was. So I had to learn. I had to learn how to, defend myself verbally. I had to learn how to shoot them back at them because otherwise I'm just a target. And I got tired of being a target. I already did that when I was younger. I don't need that again. But they all made me feel like I wasn't even worth being there. Like I was just the very bottom of the totem pole, and they treated me as such. And yeah, they just made made me feel guilty for being the new guy. So they treated me bad for being the new guy, but it was my fault because I was the new guy. Does that make sense? One time, a coworker came over. I guess my dad still works next door, so I think we did a job. We came back. He was still at the shop, and he invited my coworker over for dinner. He would do that. He would just invite people over and say, "Hey, come over and eat," and then just make my mom get up and make them food. So he got invited over. We're all eating and drinking some beer, and dude just has to say something about my long hair. He just has to make fun of it. Has to be funny, joking. And my dad just laughed. He just laughed at that. He laughed. Later he told me, "I like that. I like when guys make fun of you. It means you guys are friends." Really? But he wouldn't defend me, or he wouldn't, tell someone to chill out. Like leave him alone. It's his hair, whatever. Nah, because he didn't like it. It was okay for someone else to talk about how much they didn't like it as well. And it was annoying as hell to me. It was just nobody considered how it made me feel. And they never considered how it made me feel. And in fact, my dad believes that if I was being made fun of, if somebody was, teasing me, it's because I gave them a reason to tease me. It's because I did something and I was letting them do it, and I gave them a reason to do it. It was my fault that they were teasing me. It was always my fault. I gave them a reason. And that was quite soul shaking. Because at this point now I'm just thinking to myself, maybe it is my fault. Maybe it all is because of me. That guilt is heavy. It's very heavy. And when somebody uses it against you, it's just like getting stabbed in the chest with a sword. Just that guilt is just, it's too much. Oh, this is your fault. This is your fault. It's because of you. And I heard that a lot. And it's frustrating. It's very frustrating because there were times where it wasn't my fault at all. But yet, for some reason, I didn't have the opportunity to speak up. I didn't get a chance to speak my side. It was always like they just, okay, it's your fault, and end of story. There was never any compromise. There was never any discussion. So I had it at home and at work. And at this point, thinking to myself, who is going to listen to me at this point? Who's going to listen to me? At this point, I didn't feel like anybody was going to listen to me at all. Couldn't talk to anybody at work. Couldn't talk to anybody at home. Um, so I'm now realizing at this point, this is when the doubt is grabbing hold. The guilt is becoming very, very heavy. And seeing the effects it had on me. Looking back, and now that I've gotten this far into this series, where I feel like I was a little more disorganized in the beginning, and the deeper I get into it, the more the more detailed it becomes, the more obvious it is to see the layers and layers of emotion exposed. Seeing how the doubt and the guilt are contributing to all of that. I'm starting to see how all of that contributes to me later in life, which I will deal with at another time. I'm just trying to go through life stages, but like I said, the more I get into a certain time period, the more I can peel back the layers and see a little more detail than I thought. It does feel good to acknowledge. It does feel good to kind of, you know, see. I wish I could contain my reactions. There were times where I reacted just, I think, instinctually because that's what I was taught. I was taught to fight back. I was taught to yell and scream. No, that's not. That's not what I was. That's not who I am. But sometimes I just can't help but react that way, and I see that being treated like that for a long time, what it's done to me. I got to a point where I don't care what anybody thinks anymore. I was looking for approval everywhere, and I still wasn't finding it. All he needed was a pat on the back. All I needed was a good job. Nah, you're gonna do your stuff, and if you make a mistake, we're gonna let you know that you're the worst piece of shit on the planet. And pretty much every job has done that to me. You're either non-existent or you're a problem. Let me rephrase that. I mean me. If I am not, if I'm either non-existent or I'm a problem, and that's how it was. That's how I was treated. No attention unless it's negative. So you get used to only getting negative attention, and when someone gives you positive attention at this point, it feels weird. It feels odd. It feels foreign. Wait, you're complimenting me? What do you mean by that? Like defensive all the time because I couldn't get a compliment anywhere else. So if somebody gave me a compliment, whoa, 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 what does that mean? Seriously, seriously, I just never got it, so I just got used to it. And that was just, I think, I'm going to conclude this chapter on guilt at this point. Um, I will refer back to it from time to time because it does factor in quite a lot later in life. So I'm gonna conclude this video. I thank you again for watching. It does feel good to realize where I am with some of these things. I'm not saying that I'm like saved, and I'm not saying that I'm more better, but all I'm saying is that I'm starting to understand some things, and it is quite cathartic. But again, I thank you for watching. This is Rico trying to heal my inner child. I'll be back very, very soon with another video, and I will see you again. Please like, share, subscribe, and Leave me some comments if you'd like. Give me some notes. I feel like my videos are getting better now at this point, and I'm getting a little more organized in my thoughts. Where I think in the beginning I was just getting stuff out and I was kind of going in all directions. But the more I take notes and the more I can focus on one thing at a time, the easier it gets. Plus, you got to admit my videos look pretty cool. My titles and stuff. So again, thank you for watching, and I will see you very soon.